Welcome back to Love Sex LA Unfiltered, and I am very excited for this episode because I have a very special guest. She is TikTok's fun older sister who isn't going to bullshit you, and a relationship and dating coach who keeps it very real. Please welcome Sabrina Zohar.
I'm so excited. Congratulations on the show. This is so amazing. I'm so proud of
Oh
you.
my gosh, thank you. I'm so excited you were able to come on. I feel like we've been talking about it a little bit back and forth. And it's funny. Like I know we've never hung out, but I feel like I know you because I watch your videos and I'm like, I feel like I'm FaceTiming a friend, like venting to her right now. And she's like telling me like, chill out, stop putting him on a pedestal. Okay.
I'm so honored. I'm honored. And we need to actually do that. So yes.
Right. I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So I usually start off each episode with a little game called Date or Ghost. Okay. So I'm going to give you a scenario and you're going to tell me based on that scenario if we should date that person or ghost that person.
Okay. All right. Let's hear it. And of course, I'm going to have the nuance because I'm like, oh, ghost them. But it's like, I'll play the game. I'll play the game.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. He says he doesn't believe in labels, but he keeps pursuing you.
Bye. Bye. Goodbye. That's I don't do commitment, but I want what I can have, but I don't want to have to commit to you for it.
Yeah, totally. We've all been there. I mean, I've been there.
Yeah, we sure have.
Okay, he's still best friends with his ex.
Oh, there's some nuance that's missing. Like, are there children involved? Where did they, like what made the date end? Things like that. I would say best friends, like actually best friends, like they do everything together and they still hang out all the time. They don't have children. That's a ghost run, right? Whatever term. But I think if there's kids involved, we could look at it a little differently.
Yeah, kind of depending on the situation, case by case. Totally. Okay, he double texts you when you don't reply.
I don't think that's enough of a reason to not date or date somebody. I think it's the patterns that come with that. Is okay, he double texts you and it's like, is that the extent of it? Okay, maybe he just wants to get an answer versus does he also call you a ton? Does he double text all the time? Is he hyper vigilant? Is he being super anxious and insecure? It's like, what else is there? Because if this is a pattern of behavior and just texting, not the end of the world. We're all allowed to send 2 texts. But if it's this hyper, like if there's a mania behind that, that's when I would say ghost.
Okay, and on the other side of that, what about if he takes like a whole day to respond or sometimes multiple days to respond to a text?
That's when I have a bit of an issue. Again, patterns, right? That's what we're really looking at here. Now, it also depends on what's the context of the conversation. If you just said like, "Hey, hope you have a great day," and then maybe 2 days later he's like, "Hey, how are you?" Oh, okay. Well, that you weren't talking about anything. But if you're like, "Hey, how is it going?" and then 24 to 48 hours later he's like, "Good, thanks. You." You're like, "Okay, this person's
Yeah.
not intentional," right? Especially if we mix that with, "Do you have any plans upcoming?" If you have plans, okay, then maybe I could say maybe they're traveling, right? I think it's really a nuanced situation, which is also why it's so hard to just give this like black and white dating advice because everybody's situation is going to be different. And I try to hold space as much as I can for that.
Yeah, totally. I feel like there's so much gray area, especially in like modern dating, and people want like a very black and white answer, but there's a lot of gray area.
It's a lot of gray area. And our brains love to stay in black and white because it's safer, right? Like I was just talking about this with a friend of mine. We were looking at studies done. And back in the day, right, we're talking thousands of years ago, thousands of years ago, I could do math. And they, when we used to think about in the hunter-gatherer days, if you're in a cave and you hear wind outside, you could either assume that it's a tiger and go keep yourself safe, or you could go, oh, it's just the wind blowing and then get killed. So we love to have certainty. That's why black and white, either yay or nay, and adding shades of gray, your brain has to work harder. And it's like, I don't really want to do that.
That is so true. And it's funny you say that because I feel like that goes a lot to like these different like dating mantras that we see all over TikTok. Like if he wanted to, he would. Like there is so much gray area. I did a whole series on that. And it's easy to believe like the black and white version of it, right? Especially as a woman. But there's gray area for sure.
There's gray area, especially like, listen, I think that some of these aspects can be nuanced, right? If you're like, oh, the guy didn't call me, it's like, yeah, he doesn't want to fucking call you, right? Like that's what it is. And he's not doing it. And again, but it could go further. It's like, maybe it's not want, maybe it's something came up, maybe it's that this is going on, maybe. I think what we do is when we do these platitudes and we do that, it also emits a lot of accountability for people. So it's just a very like, oh, yay, bumper sticker slogan. I can move on with my life because our brain wants certainty and we can find certainty in these little pockets versus having to go, wait a minute, what's the nuance and can I use more of my critical thinking, which not a lot of people are doing.
So true. So true. That's a good way to put it. That is a good way to put it. I love that. Last one. He wants you to meet his parents after 2 weeks.
No, thank you. Unsubscribe, run, ghost, boo, as fast as you can. And I know, there's always going to be the people listening being like, but my friend met somebody at the grocery store and then they spent every day together. And it's like, sure, 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 sure. Can they happen? Of course, there are outliers. But if I'm a betting woman, do you think I'm going to put my money on somebody that after 2 weeks, you don't even know me, but you want me to meet your family? Something that is actually quite important? No, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be overwhelming. That's like there was this guy I went out with not too long ago, and it was like the second date, and I wasn't really feeling it, but I was like giving it a shot. And he's like, I'm gonna delete all the dating apps. Like, I'm gonna get rid of. And I was like, oh, that was it. The second date, it was done. I freaked
Yeah.
out.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you for being honest about that because especially as a woman's perspective, we hear that the guys do that all the time and they run and they leave. And I was having a talk with my friend. He's 31, dating, heterosexual, so in those norms. And he was saying that he had a second date, kind of similar to you. And the girl said, I'm intentional. And he was like, awesome, me too. Like, cool, cool, cool. Glad we agree. And he thought that's where it was going to end. And she said, well, but when I'm in, I'm in. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, this is our second date. And she's like, so you're telling me right now, like, you're not in with me? So you're not really intentional. Started freaking out. And he's like, dude, I don't know you. Like, this is
Right.
literally the second date. I am not ready to not date anybody else. And I understand the anxiety of like, well, but when you know, you know. And it's like, yeah, but not everybody does. And not everybody is the box theory. And not everyone knows within 5 minutes how they feel because some of us need to process and some of us need time to get to know someone in order to feel safe with them. And I'm actually really proud of you for being like, no, thank you. That doesn't work for me because listen, you can, if you were really into this person, you can talk to them about it. But when you're especially on the edge and you're like, oh, I think that there's somewhere I'm not, you did the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because you don't want to waste anyone's time. But
No.
I'm right with you. Like when it's too much too soon, like that, like, there's always the exception. Like you're saying, there's exceptions. I see it like on TikTok. People are like, oh, I went no contact with my ex and now we're married. I'm like, that's the exception though. Like a lot of the time, like there's people that, if they're not emotionally available, you have to like move on. You know what I mean? And it's not
Yeah.
just a matter of like not talking to them and then all of a sudden you're married,
And
you
then not
know?
to mention, we look and say, what happened in that no contact? Did they do any work on themselves? What was the reason you broke up to begin with? Was it something
Yes.
small and minute? Was it something major? Because sure, I can watch a lot of things on Instagram and TikTok. Doesn't mean it's healthy. Doesn't necessarily mean that
Yes.
that relationship is anything I would want. You can be married, but you could also be miserable.
Yes, and that's I feel like so common too.
Yeah.
So many people I see in these relationships and they're posting online like they're the happiest people in the world and then you see and you're like they're miserable. But I think social media has a big part of that too. Like you said, like people wanting to rush into something and like you don't even know the person, but because of social media and like this false sense of connection people get over texting, it's like you think you know them,
The
you know?
pendulum has swung. Oh yeah, the pendulum swung from back in the day. Even when I'm 35, so even when I was a kid, you had a computer room. You didn't have the internet in your
Yeah.
hands, right? So like you had to be intentional about where you were going. And I remember even like when you think about that time frame, a lot of people we only knew what was happening in our house, right? Unless I went to another person's home in the neighborhood, how was I going to know how different parents show up, things like that? Now with the internet, we're not really using social media as a means of entertainment. We're living other people's lives through this lens. And now we have this open to everybody's relationship at all times that now the pendulum has swung from where we didn't really know anything about other people to now we know everything. And I think it's about finding the happy balance because, like, it's a highlight reel. You could look at my stuff all day and be like, she's the most confident and secure person. Meanwhile, I'm crying in my room because I just got a bad email. You just don't know.
Yeah, you just don't know, but it's so true. It's a highlight reel. And of course, people want to show their best moments. I feel like you do a good job too, though, of like being very real with people, being real
I
and like showing it all.
I try because I think at the end of the day, I could either come at this as this like grandiose, I'm on this high mountain and it's like, who the fuck am I? I'm just another person in the world that just figured some shit out a little bit differently than the other. And I think it's because I never resonated with those people that were holier than thou. I really resonate with people that I'm like, wait, you've done what I've done and you made it. Okay, I want to know what you did.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true because at the end of the day, we're all people and we all have our flaws, our strengths, our
Yeah,
weaknesses, and to like recognize it and like show people you can still do this. Even if you might not be good at this, you can still do this. You know what I mean? So I love that. I love that. I
100%.
resonate with that. Love it, girl. Okay, so I want to get into the main theme of this episode, talking about whether someone is a red flag or it's your attachment style. So, kind of getting into that, I wanted to first ask you to kind of touch on the different attachment styles
Totally.
that people have.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting because some of them might be both, right? Some of it might be that
Yeah.
they're a red flag that's also triggering your attachment style. On a very high brow, like anybody is welcome to go and research more into this, but Bowlby, 1970s, came up with attachment theory, and it's a theory, but like gravity is too. And so attachment theory essentially says that the way that we attune to our parents and the way our parents attune to us creates attachments as kids. So you have three insecure and one secure, right? And everybody thinks that secure is this like gold standard. Anybody can become earned secure, but if you the unicorns in the world that are secure, good luck, kudos to you. But typically the way that we see is like when you have somebody secure, it's that as a child they were taught to give and receive love. They were taught that their needs mattered. They were taught that the emotions were safe. They were modeled by their caregivers, and that sometimes could look like parents that argued in front of the kid but also repaired. And so the child understands that somebody getting upset doesn't mean it's the end of the world or that they're going to be abandoned. And that actually even shows when you look at attachment theory that it goes all the way even to like the first year of your life, that if you even make eye contact with your kid up to 30% of the time, they can have a secure attachment. So there's a lot of different ways that you could do this. So that's the secure. And secure people, they have a high sense of self and a high sense of others. So they don't automatically assume that people are going to hurt them. They don't look and say, "Oh, I'm going to get ghosted." They see it as I exist, other people exist. Like I'm going to connect with people. They're open about conversations and communication. And again, you can earn your secure. Then we have the insecure attachment style. So we have anxious, which is a low sense of self and a high sense of others. So anxious attachers, hypervigilant, lots of protest behavior of either over texting, starting to get really big emotions. For people with anxious attachment, it's I'm only okay if you tell me I'm okay, and I can't sit in any kind of this because they had instability in the home. So caregivers that were inconsistent, hot and cold, in and out, and that breeds this I need you in my life, I don't want you, right? I'm scared you're going to leave me, and it's always this please come back to me. Then we go into the avoidant. There's two, right? I call one avoidant, one disorganized. Some people call it fearful or dismissive, right? The avoidant or the dismissive avoidant, depending on the school of thought, is high sense of self, low sense of others. And so that's why the anxious and the avoidant are such a beautiful little dance together, because the anxious person has big emotions and they can express themselves and they're communicative and they talk. So the avoidant person looks at this being like, oh, wow, that's really attractive. I don't have that. The avoidant person is more inward. So they are, again, low sense of others, high sense of self. They might have been taught at a young age vulnerability means danger, right? Like my partner, he used to get hit as a kid if he would say something. So he learned, keep my mouth shut, don't say anything. Like his father was not a great person. And so he learned that vulnerability is scary, that you only need yourself. People are going to leave you. So what does it matter? And if I show emotions, I get hurt or my caregiver might leave. Maybe these are people with emotionally unavailable parents who never really talked about emotions in the home. So this person doesn't understand it. It's overwhelming. What happens? The anxious person goes outward, very big, very big. I need the answer. I'm going to text you 100 times. Whereas the avoidant person goes inwards. They get overwhelmed. They shut down. They go completely off the radar and they don't know what to do. And then we have disorganized or the fearful avoidant, some people might call it, which is the amalgamation. It's not that with one person I'm anxious and the other I'm avoidant. The trauma is the attachment style. And so that means the push-pull is part of the attachment style. It's not just like, oh, I'm getting the ick, so I'm going to remove myself. It can be prevalent of homes of abuse, alcoholism, things like that, right? It's low sense of self and low sense of others. And for people with disorganized or in the fearful, a lot of times it's because the parent that you went to for love was also the source of danger. So you want love, you'll go close, but then you remove yourself. And a lot of it is out of control. I can't get too close. And if I do, I remove myself. So I want it, but I don't. I want it, but I don't. And that's really the attachment styles in a nutshell of just understanding no one is good or bad. No one is better or worse. And we have got to drop this fucking narrative that avoidants are the worst people and they're terrible. No, 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 no. They have anxiety just like the rest of us. They handle it differently. It's not an excuse for bad behavior.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. I really like the way you went into that. And okay, following up with that, like I'm gonna ask you a two-part question. So, one, can people's attachment styles change and not just from like an anxious to a secure or avoidant to secure, but can they go from anxious to avoidant? And can relationships, like romantic relationships or even friendships, be the source of people's different attachment styles? If they grew up with like a normal set of parents that gave them love and they should have been secure, but then they went through like a traumatic relationship or something like that.
So there's yes ands to everything. So the first question, sorry, my ADHD brain, I'm like, where were we? It was,
I'm
oh
the
yeah,
same way.
can you move through the attachment styles?
Yeah.
So you don't have to, it's not like I can only go from anxious to secure, right? Like, but usually what we see is that's more of like if you're super anxious and then you start to go more avoidant, it's usually that you're going dorsal. Your nervous system is feeling overwhelmed. It starts to shut down. It's less about that. You still have anxiety, but it's less about the fact that you're going to be somebody that texts 100 times and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't need anybody, and you push people away. Like it's not really that type of amalgamation, but you can absolutely be fluid. You could be earned secure and then go back into anxiety. Like it really just means at the end of the day, when you get to earn secure, what that really is just saying is that I have time to process my emotions. I validate my feelings and emotions and I don't wait for other people to. I might know how to self-soothe so that I'm not seeking external. It doesn't mean I'm not still anxious and doesn't mean I still don't have core beliefs that make me feel, but I have tools now that I know what to do with it. And then the second question, now, can it come from things? Absolutely. But typically speaking, my question would be, so if you had such a great family home and your parents and all of this, well, then when you would get bullied at school and your friends would do that, who did you go to? Because if you had parents that you were able to go to that would say, hey, that makes so much sense. I totally get that. What do you need from us? How can we help? Then you would probably not be friends with those people. But oftentimes we have to look and say, it's not about big T. It doesn't mean that your parents had to hate you or be narcissistic. Like I'm just one of the lucky few, one of the lucky people that has that. You can have two awesome parents. Like I had one of my clients and she had a lot of anxiety and she couldn't really understand where it came from until we realized that growing up, her parents, I've had multiple different versions. I've had one where the parents do everything to avoid any kind of conflict. So it's all just go outside and play. Everything was distract the kids. Yeah, but the parents never taught the kids how to handle emotion. So now as an adult, things happen and they just don't know what to do with it. Or they get super anxious and start to overthink because their parents worked a lot and just weren't home. And when they'd go to them, the parents would dismiss them. That doesn't make your parents bad. They might not have realized it. What that meant was that's how you learned to attune to them was, oh, okay, then I need to be perfect. That's how I'll get their attention. It's not about villainizing your parents. It's about really asking, where did I learn this behavior from? Because again, if it's your friends and relationships, absolutely. But if you had a solid and secure childhood and home, then you're probably not going to, that's not going to impact your self esteem in the same way because you had people that were there to teach you otherwise.
I feel like you're right. Like a lot of people might think it's like villainizing a parent, but it might just be the way, like generationally, like for generations, they learn to cope and deal with things and it gets passed down to you. And
For a lot of people, they don't want to say anything against their parents because it feels like I'm a bad person. They did the best they could. But again, it's about, well, if I'm going to keep discrediting where I learned this from, then I'm never going to heal it because how am I going to heal something unless I acknowledge where I got it from?
yeah, yeah, makes sense. It makes sense. It does because like the way you put it, like sometimes it's just like they, just go out and play, have fun. Like you're not teaching people how to deal with conflict. There's different reasons people end up like that. But what's one thing that you think people misunderstand about secure attachment styles?
Oh, so many. That I think the misunderstanding with secure attachment style is that they never get triggered, that they're always happy, that nothing is ever a problem. Secure people have anxiety like the rest of us. They bleed the same blood. Secure people just don't go into it must be about me. Secure people don't put their self-worth because of somebody else's behavior because they understand someone else's behavior is theirs and mine is mine. But that doesn't mean that secure people don't fall for love bombing like anyone else. It's just that it might not impact them as much. When they realize it, they go, oh, never mind, this isn't for me, as opposed to, I need to fix this, I have to get them, what can I do, what did I do wrong? They don't let it impact their self-esteem in the same way, but it doesn't mean that they don't still have the same aspects. They get triggered, they get sad. Secure people still meet other people that are negative. They just don't let it impact them in the same ways or as severely as maybe other attachment styles.
Have you ever seen where someone that's a secure attachment transition into like anxious or avoidant attachment at all?
Not necessarily attachment. I've seen friends, like my friend who is as secure as it comes. Like I've never met anybody like her. When she did a test this years ago, and she came to my house and she goes, "I felt anxiety for the first time. How do you deal with that?" And I was like, "Fuck off, okay." And but she just like really genuinely like didn't understand this fear of the future because she felt so solid within herself because she had been raised to believe that she was good enough and she was worthy and she was deserving. She
Yeah.
didn't worry about stuff. She always knew it's going to be fine. I'll figure it out because I always have because she was taught that. But very rarely, I mean, it can happen, of course. Don't get me wrong, especially if like maybe you're secure and your parents pass away and then you are taught different things. Of course,
Yeah.
it can. But have I personally seen it? Not as much. I've seen secure people just be humans, and then eventually the window is smaller of how long it impacts them. So like someone secure, right? My friend, she went through a breakup. She still cried and was sad, but then a couple of weeks later, she was like, it's part of life, right? And just
Yeah.
moved on. Didn't mean that she was dating again, but she understood how to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Isn't that funny? Like when I hear people that are like, they don't have anxiety, I'm like, I
What
don't understand how you don't.
what does that feel like? And I genuinely am like, can we make anxiety a superpower then? Because no.
Right? Oh my gosh. It's so true, though. So true. So, okay, kind of going into the whole theme of the episode, how does someone know, someone who has an anxious attachment style, how do they know if the person they are with has red flags or, things that they're overlooking versus their anxious attachment is just coming out and they're kind of creating problems? Or maybe the person, like you said, does have red flags, and it's triggering their anxious attachment.
So red flags are a pattern of behavior. That's it. Like that's the difference. It's like when people are like, "Oh, that's a red flag." You're like, "What? That they have a Velcro wallet? Get the fuck out of here." It's like a
Yeah, it's a
red
very overused
flag.
word.
Right? A red flag is a pattern of behavior that shows. So, someone that doesn't take accountability, that's a pattern of behavior that's not going to get any better. The red flags that we're looking for are, yeah, are they consistent? Are they reciprocal? And so, I think what happens is what we have to look at, especially when you have anxious attachment, is with anxious attachment, your brain can literally convince yourself, no, what I hear all the time is, between the anxious and avoidant. The avoidant person says, I just haven't met the right person. That's always I just haven't met the right person. That's all. The anxious person is, I know there's something wrong. I just don't know what. I've heard it all the time of like when I know something's off, I just don't have it right now because they're going based off, no. If I can anticipate the threat, then I can be proactive about the threat. And so when we're looking, the first thing I would ask is, have you regulated your nervous system? Because if you haven't and you're still ruminating and you're spiraling and you're like, no, I know they've done something, then I'm going to say, we're not going to have this conversation. Because until you regulate and you come back to the present moment where you have choice and you can access that place of choice, like your prefrontal cortex and coming from where decision making and common sense, you're not going to be able to actually see things for what they are because you're in your amygdala, which is your fear center, and you're just stuck in that same spot. And so I think the first thing is that the person needs to regulate. Then what I would say is, okay, here's the behavior. So it's, they didn't text me back. Red flag. Okay, what facts do I have to back up the narrative that I've created? So they didn't text me back. Why do you think they didn't text you back? Because they're a red flag. What makes that a red flag? Like I start to pull on the thread of, okay, what's the response? Well, they should have answered me based on what timeline? Well, I text them. Okay, but you text them. That doesn't mean that they have to answer in the time frame that you deem appropriate. Are they consistent in other ways? Well, yeah, they call me every night. Okay, but you have consistent plans with this person? Yeah, we're seeing each other this weekend. Okay, so then you're full of shit. This is not a fucking red flag. This is your anxiety because you're creating a narrative and a story without any facts to back it up. Versus, I was out with them. They were really rude to the waiter. I think that's a red flag. Done. End of conversation. You're right. That is.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we were saying, like red flag is definitely like one of those overused, kind of
Yeah.
key terms that we see all over TikTok now or, all over social media. But yeah, because I feel like when I was thinking about it, I'm like, it's probably hard for some people to realize, like, when is this person someone that they shouldn't be with versus like their anxious attachment and almost like gaslighting themselves into saying, oh my gosh, no, it's me, it's my anxious attachment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we and it's easy to do because when we doubt ourselves and we don't trust ourselves, we can either
Yes.
say we look at everybody as I can't trust you, you're the villain, or I can't trust myself, I'm the problem. And what we want to do is it's like my friend is a meditation teacher and he always describes it as like when you have water with dirt in it, right? You're not seeing it clearly, but when you let it settle and then you have a clear shot through, you can actually see the forest for the trees. You can see what it is that you're looking at. And instead of trying to figure out, are they a red flag? Maybe the question is, am I fulfilled and satisfied? Are my needs
Yeah.
met? Does this feel good to me? And if you're like, well, yeah, but it's like, then that's that.
And I don't know if you've seen this quote on Instagram or any of those, that someone with anxious attachment or someone that over analyzes heavily relationships, they need someone that over communicates a lot. Do you
No.
think that's true?
No, that's absolute bullshit because what you're saying is you're outsourcing your emotional regulation. You're
Yeah.
outsourcing, you're saying, well, you need to make me feel good because if I'm overthinking, you need to tell me I'm not overthinking. No, you got to learn how to regulate your own emotionals and create safety
Yes.
within your own body so that I can assess this and then have a conversation with my partner.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And I've seen some of your videos where you talk about how you used to be anxious attachment, right?
I was the poster child for it. Why do you think I know all of the thought processes and everything about it? I was her. I
Yeah.
came from a narcissistic parent. My mom is a people pleaser and like doesn't it's not shocking that she fell for my father. And I came from that household of like a lot of inconsistency, hot and cold, never knowing when my dad was going to be there or not. So I was highly anxious. I think in my heyday, yeah, my story is I've texted a guy 173 times because he wanted to end things with me after like 5 dates. Yeah, like
Oh my gosh. So it takes one to know one, is what you're saying. It takes one
it
to know one.
there's a reason I know so much about it. I'll just say
Oh
that.
my gosh, 173 times.
Yeah, give me
That's
one
a
second.
lot. But you know
I
what? I feel like those experiences probably catapulted you into what you're doing now, which is so great and it's helping people.
100% right. My headphone keeps popping out, and I just want to make sure I can hear you properly. We have to get
I know
these
you're
fixed.
good. You're
Fucking shit.
good.
All right, you know what? Fuck it. Headphones. That one's going to be out. I have one ear. Okay. Honestly,
That's
for
so funny.
me, I struggle to take advice from people if you haven't. If I don't admire the life that you have, why am I taking your advice? But two, if you haven't experienced anything that I have, I'm going to struggle. That doesn't mean I can't, right? Like, you can go to a trauma therapist that's never had trauma before, but they actually learned it, right? They have different things and skills versus some of these fucking dating coaches or these bullshit like 22-year-olds on TikTok that are sitting here being like, if a guy doesn't text you every day, it's because he doesn't like you. And it's like, okay, great. With what life experience and projections are you coming to me with this?
Right? Yeah, but I feel like
Because
there's definitely a lot of that
yeah,
online.
because most people don't want to do the work. It's really messy. It's really involved. It's really hard. It's easier to just be like, I want platitudes. I want quick. I want easy. I want this is all I have to do, and I get what I want. And I get that, right? I understand that we have the internet now. Things are literally at your door. Amazon can get something to your door in 3 hours. Like it's unnatural. But at the end of the day, if you really want the relationship, you really want to heal through this. It's like that's just going to take time. It's taken me it's been since 2018 since I got into therapy. So we're looking at 7 years and I'm still evolving and growing and still learning and doing all of these things. Like it doesn't end. And so anybody that tells you that too, any of these fucking quacks on TikTok or Instagram of like, I'm healed.
Yeah. But you know what it is too? I could see where, people are sitting there doom scrolling. They're down bad after something and they see one of these people and they're like, oh, yep, exactly. Like, that's what I feel. It's their fault. You know what I mean? It's hard to take accountability. And like you said, you're in therapy. There's people that can't admit things to themselves, which I feel like is the first thing you have to do. And that's hard for people, you
Yeah.
know?
But you know what? At
Yeah.
the same time, I'd tell those people, like, choose your hard. For a lot of
Yeah.
people, getting out of bed is really hard for them if they're going through a depression. I have one of my clients, she's in a wheelchair, and like even just getting up the stairs is hard for her. And it's like, but you choose what you're going to do. You choose your hard, and you choose what you're going to invest your energy and time into. And so if it's, well, that's hard, it's like, and so are relationships. So can't wait. Let me know when you get there how easy that is for you.
Amen to that. Amen to that. That's why I love your stuff. You keep it so real. It's like, listen, it's a double-edged sword. Pick your fucking hard, right?
You pick your poison at the end of the day. It's like, I'm giving you choice, and now you get to
Yeah.
make one.
I love it. I love it. So, what advice do you have for someone who's in anxious attachment to kind of help regulate themselves or at least start going in that direction?
The first thing I can say that saved my life was learn how to take a pause. Something called the sacred pause. I didn't come up with the name, but it's kind of a therapy term. And it's literally, even if you could just take 2 deep breaths in between a response, I'm telling you, what you're doing is you're training your nervous system that you are safe, that it's okay, that you are allowed to have distance between stimulus and response. I want stimulus to response, not stimulus to react. Because when I stopped reacting and started to respond, my entire fucking life changed. I had different friends, I had different people in my life. And I think something that anybody in the healing journey really needs to understand is you've got to lose before you gain in this journey, because you got to purge a lot of bullshit. So like when you start to heal, you're going to lose friends, you're going to have people that are going to call you difficult, you're going to have people in your life that are out, and that's the first step. And then you reach a point where you start to really implement the work that you're doing, and then it starts to show. And then your friends are, and then the people that are in your life are like, hey, I've noticed a big shift. You start dating differently, your life starts to look different. I promise you that part of it is that you're going to lose things at first. And the reason I preface is because that's your biggest fear. That's abandonment. That's, oh my God, please don't leave me. And I want to assure you, you've made it through every single bad day of your goddamn life thus far. These fuckboys or girls that you're meeting on TikTok, on Instagram, on fucking date, all these dating apps, on Facebook, on Snapchat, and all this bullshit that you're dealing with, you are scared of losing them. You've already lost yourself. And if you really want to make changes in your life, then it's going to have to be one, learning to grieve, and two, learning to pause, because it's going to change the game when you learn to respond and not react.
I love that. I'm clipping that one for TikTok. I love it. That was so good. Love it. Love it. So, and that's a great point. If you feel like you're worried about losing someone, you've already lost yourself.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's like almost like, people that go through rehab or something, you're going to have to change your patterns, your lifestyle. And with that comes like friendships, relationships, all of that, which can be
100%.
scary. It can be scary for people.
It's a lot. It's scary, but then we have to really start get curious about, okay, what's so scary about it? And once you
Yeah.
really start to, like I said, like pull at the thread or the thread of the sweater. Once you start to pull on that, and you're like, yeah, what is scary about that? I'm going to be alone. Okay, what's so scary about being alone? I'm scared I'll never meet anyone. And it's like, okay, so I'm holding on to the idea of them because I'm scared of being single. It has actually nothing to do with them. Got it. It
Yeah.
helps you so that you because we have the perception of control. If I can figure out how to keep them, no, that's not control. What's control is if I can figure out what it is, then I can heal my shit and work through my stuff and walk away from something that doesn't work for me. Oh, I actually have control.
Yeah. Yeah. People have more control than they realize.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Totally. So with that, what advice would you give to, let's say in this situation, women who are single right now and trying to find a partner in modern dating?
I would say, we got to talk about a couple of things. One, we have to manage some expectations, because I don't know where these people are coming in from. And I've seen it like where I expect that these people are going to show up in all of these ways. And it's like, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed is the first thing. My mama always said, hope for the best, but expect nothing. Like I walk in being like, hey, if this is a great date and this leads to something, awesome. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Because I'm not like walking in being like, I expect this guy to do this and do this and do this. Because it's not fair to them and it's not fair to me that I'm putting this onto them. The second thing I will say is, are you clear about your non-negotiables and boundaries? Are you very 100% on like, this is what I need, I'm taking up the space, and I want you in my life, but I don't need you in my life, because that is going to change the game for you. And I know people will say, well, but then I haven't met anyone. It's like, great, then it's working, because you're weeding people out that aren't right for you. And when I met my partner, I was in the thick of it. Clem had just passed away a month prior. So I was it was like 3 weeks prior. I was a shell of a human. Clem was my dog and my spirit animal, like truly. He was like my everything. He saved me. Like,
Yeah.
we were together for 10 years. Like that was the only object permanence I had. And when he passed away, I broke up with the guy that I was seeing. That was like a 2-month thing. I went to San Diego and I met my partner. And when we met, I remember I was tired. I remember I even made a video being like, I'm fucking exhausted. I'm done with dating. I'm so tired. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm releasing control. I remember I said it. I was like, I'm surrender. I surrender. I give up. And so when I met Ryan, I just remember being like, he's cute. Not my type, but I'll go out with him, right? Like I had cookie cutter. If you saw all of them, my mama said, she was like, the chalk outlines? It was just like, just put a different body. Like that was they all looked the same, talked the same. So I was like, let me try something different. It's not that I wasn't attracted to him, but he's not what I always go for.
Yeah.
And when we were for our first date, like I remember seeing him being like, he's nice, but like I'm not really that into it. There's no spark. But I was like, that's okay. I'm not really looking for that. And we went on a hike, and then at the end he was like, listen, I'd love to take you to dinner. Like, could we, can we keep, and if not, totally cool, let's part ways. And I was like, fuck it, I got nothing else today. I was like, sure, let me give this guy a chance. And we went back to his house. He was like, let's go back to my house. Let's change really quick, and then we'll go out to dinner, and then we can both kind of part ways from there. And I was like, cool. we hook up. Right. Like next thing I know, I'm on his bed and I said, hey, come here. And all that. And I remember thinking like, I just kind of wanted to get laid. And if nothing comes from this, I had a good time. I made a choice for myself. And we went to dinner and I went to the bathroom and I came back and, he was like, oh, I took care of the check, blah, blah. And he was like, what's up for the week? And what are you doing like later in the week? And I just stopped him and I said, listen, I'm just going to be really honest with you. I had a really great time with you tonight. And if this is all it was, like, thank you. I just kind of needed this and I needed to like have a good night. I was like, but if you call me, that's because we're actually going to like build something or date to see if we have something. I'm incredibly intentional and I don't do the friends with benefits or casual things. So don't waste my fucking time.
Yeah.
And he was just like, okay. And he loved it. He loved it because he was like, you were clear. He was like, what I thought was really sexy was you were okay losing me if it didn't work for you. And he was like, that showed me the strength and that what you were coming with, that you were so much different than any woman I had met. And you were exactly what I was looking for. Because if you hold you and you show up saying unapologetically, like, this is who I am. And if you don't like it, that's okay. I'm not going to go home and cry tears for 6 weeks because you didn't call me back. I made a choice for myself and I am holding that truth. You will have different relationships and different outcomes. I'm not saying you have to fuck them. I'm not saying you have to sleep with somebody. Please know that's not the moral of the story. But the moral of the story is notice how all the lessons and all the don't kiss for 3 months, don't sleep with them for this, don't do this. That didn't work. It didn't work, and it never had worked when I had done that. So instead, get rid of the rules, follow your gut, learn to listen to your gut, learn to regulate your nervous system, and learn to show up as yourself so that you can choose people that choose you as well.
Yeah. I think that overall that you like you were saying, like our own expectations and the norms and the rules we learn are the things that sometimes disappoint us the most, right? Sometimes it's not even the other person, it's our own expectations of them. And you showed up as yourself. And I always say, like, whether it's a relationship, romantic relationship, a friendship, or in business, you have to be okay walking away and losing. And I know that's hard. People, sometimes you meet someone, you think, oh my gosh, there's a connection here. I've never met someone like this. And it's hard to say, I got to be okay walking away from them. But at the end of the day, if you're not okay losing that person, like you said before, you'll end up losing yourself.
100%. I remember the first time I walked away from a guy that I was like crazy about. Like the first time I remember like it's etched in my mind where like I held a boundary and I was like, holy shit, did you just really do this? Like that was like your dream guy, but he was emotionally unavailable and he was playing a game. And dream guy on paper, he was successful and attractive and had a really nice house and a really nice car and he was fun. And you could have put us in a padded room and we would have entertained ourselves. Like we were laughing and crying. It was so. But then when I really started to choose me, then when we hung out again, wasn't that dynamic because I started to see his bullshit. And then we weren't as jokey and he was a lot more cold and dismissive and I wasn't trying to make it anything. And I remember when I chose myself, I cried and I remember just being like, no, baby, you got this. And we never spoke. No, I lied. We spoke again once more. And 9 months later, I reached out to him just to be like, hey, thinking of you. And I remember he was like, oh, hey, babe, I'm in LA. Want to get dinner tomorrow night? And I said yes, and my mom called me and she goes, did you really say yes to him? And I was like, oh my God, you're right. And I canceled. Never, he didn't even answer. Because my mom, she's like, it's the same bullshit. She was like, he didn't tell you he was in town. You had to reach out to him. And then he says, babe, and then he's like, sorry, can't make it 7:00. Let's do 9:30. And I was like, get bent. You're wasting my fucking time. And it was scary. But you know what would have been scarier? Oh my God, imagine how much time I would have spent on that.
Yeah, that's so true. And people don't think about that because I think people are just, they want that, they want a partner, they want a companion, and they, look at all the things they like about them. Or like you said, like someone that's usually your type. Isn't that so funny too? Your partner's not your type at all, right? Like your typical type you would have gone for. So wait, what was his attachment style? Were you guys both like secure attachment styles at this point?
No, well, so when we met, I was definitely like more in my earn secure. Like I was feeling, but like I've still grown. Like I'm more secure now than I was then. Yeah. And he was, Ryan went to school for psychology, so like he understands a lot of this. But then he ended up doing something different with his career, and so he understood it all. And he's more avoidant. And so his sister took her life a couple of years ago or 3 years ago before we met, and so that I think kind of propelled him into therapy more. And so when we met, he was significantly more self-aware. And we both have talked about, like, had we met at a different time, proximity and timing matter so much more than anything else, because had we met at a different time, I was too much in my shit. He was in his. He would have pulled away. I would have chased. We never would have been together. But when we met, both of us had even said, he was like, I was very intentional of like, I want a relationship. I'm ready for that. Like, I'm done with this. And he was like, I knew I was what I was looking for. And so did I. And we were both able to recognize that within each other. And the reason we're together now isn't because we've always been secure. It's because we grow together. We grow separately and together. together. So like when we have an impasse where we've had that, where I'm like, hey, you're shutting down and like I can't move past this, then he's like, okay, I need to go to therapy. And he's like, this is for me, not because I'm not doing this because you told me to do it. He's like, because I want to show up better as a person and I don't
Yeah.
want to do this. That's why we're still together. Had he just been avoidant and I had just been anxious, this would have been some kind of trauma bond.
Totally, totally. And I love that. And I love that you talk about how you guys grow together because I think that's so important. And people almost, I feel like, want to avoid that. Like they want to just like, find someone to complete them and so I appreciate that. I love that. So, okay, to that point, talking about timing, do you believe then that you can meet the right person wrong time?
No, because I think what makes them the right person is they're in your life at the right time.
Yeah.
It's if we hold on to right person, wrong time, then what we're saying is like, oh, at another time we could be right. And it's like, yeah, but we don't have proof of that and you don't have a guarantee. I have had so many men where I'm like, that's it. Like the guy I just told you, right person, wrong time. No, I never heard from this person again. If I imagine if I held on to that, what I would say is what makes somebody right is that they're in your life at the right time. And so if they're not, and that's it, you can release and say, maybe one day, maybe, right? Like I've
Yeah.
had friends that 10 years later, they reconnect and then they end up being together. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was right person, wrong time. It wasn't the right time then, but it was the right time now. And
Yeah.
what matters is the evolution. But not every person I've ever spoken to this day, would love to meet somebody that wasn't, that broke up and then got back together later has all said, I never held on to right person, wrong time. They were like, I moved on with my life. And
Yeah.
then when, I always had love for them and I always cared about them, but I never thought, oh, they're going to be my person one day. I just have to give it more time. And then one day they contacted me. It just usually is more that both people moved on and come back together because that was what was meant to happen and that they were in a different place.
Yeah, totally. So, okay, to that. So, I was kind of going back and forth between something. I was like, I'm going to ask Sabrina. So, I have a theory. It's called the green banana theory. And basically, when a man is not ready, or a woman, whoever you're dating, is not ready for a relationship, they're emotionally unavailable, or they think they're just unavailable in some capacity. You can't fix them. You can't change them. They're a green banana, no matter, how you cut it up, what you put on it, whatever. They're just not ready. It's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth at that point in time. Do you think that there are situations where someone is necessarily like a green banana where they're just not ready, or they're just not ready for someone like you? Because I've also had relationships where, the guy says he's not ready for something. And then next thing you know, he's in a full-blown relationship.
And for that, and then for all intents and purposes, it's like maybe that other person doesn't trigger them. Maybe that other person
Yeah.
is like super mellow and chill. And meanwhile, with the anxiety was really reminiscent of their mother. And instead, they met a girl or guy that like was super laid back and relaxed and wasn't very much like them. That's
Yeah.
where we have to say, sure, there are sometimes like some people are using excuses. I'm like, oh, I'm not ready for something. Like I've done that. I have said that to men before because I didn't want to tell them like I don't like you. And it's like I
Yeah.
was trying not to hurt them. And then
Yeah.
then you start dating somebody very soon after and you're like, yeah, well, it's a different person, right? Like they weren't as this. The reason I say that is because it's like, but it was never out of malice, right? Like if I told somebody I'm not ready and then I got into something, there wasn't anything wrong with them. We just weren't a match. Maybe I was too triggered or I was getting anxious or I was feeling overwhelmed or they were too dismissive and they were removing themselves too much and I couldn't connect with them in a way that I'd like. For the most part, that was usually in like the pre-heyday. Like now, if I were dating now, like I would just be honest of like, hey, I don't think this is a connection. Like I'm not interested.
Yeah.
But I think what we have to say is that this is kind of where I go with why doesn't matter. We always want to know why didn't they break? Why didn't they want to be with me? Why did they break up with me? What does she have that I don't? Right. So then what we're saying is I feel like there's something wrong with me that somebody else has. The why isn't going to matter because I can sit here and say the why is because she didn't trigger him. Well, why didn't she trigger? You'll always come with more whys because your brain's intellectualizing to avoid feeling pain.
Yeah.
What matters is they're not for me. So if that means that they match somebody else, that doesn't mean they're better than me. That might just be they're better for them.
Yeah.
And so it's not that they found someone better. It's that they are more aligned with someone else. And I now get to be more aligned with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so true. I think also like a lot of the time, the longer we prolong, or, the longer we keep forcing something that isn't a fit, the longer it takes to find the person that you're truly meant for.
Yeah, the further home is the longer the walk. So it's like,
Yeah.
you're going to cry now or you'll cry later. But it's where we see this is kind of the difference between the attachment styles. Where we see it play out is in the minutia of those moments of, okay, you were dating somebody, they said that they found someone else. What do you do with that information? When you're secure, you're like, okay, hey, that must just mean it's better for them. Like, that's okay. There's a better match. Versus the anxiety of like, what did they have that I don't? Is there something wrong with me and I'm not good enough? It's a very big
Yeah.
difference.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, I think in like we were talking about earlier, kind of like with social media and seeing people what they're doing at all times and who they're dating now, it can be so complicated. But like you said, I think it depends to like, attachment styles and how people cope and handle things, which is interesting. But okay, kind of transitioning away from that, I wanted to talk to you about ghosting and texting. So I wanted to first kind of touch on, is there a time or a situation where it's appropriate where you kind of go someone? Like you go on one date with them and you feel like you don't owe them an explanation and you just don't really respond or communicate with them anymore.
So on paper, I'm gonna say to me, I don't think it's ghosting if you had one date and just kind of fizzled out, right? But then I get yelled at by the people being like, "That's not considerate," and you're not. It's like, no, you're taking it really fucking personal, is what it is. And it's like, or that's the one date you've been on this year, and you're like, that's all I have. But I think if you are an active dater, if you're going out a lot and you're going on a few dates a week, a month, right? Like you're putting yourself out there. When I lived in New York and LA, I had multiple dates a week. Some weeks I had none. Some weeks I had like 3 in a day where you're like fucking running around because you're matching with all these people or meeting somebody out. Did I take it personally if I never heard from them again? If I text them, it was like, hey, I had a great time, and they didn't hear from them, I just deduced. I was like, okay, you don't need to tell me you didn't want to see me again. That told me everything I needed to know. Now, does it make it better or worse? Yeah, sometimes it sucks, but like after 7, 8 hours, you're like, got it. Okay. That's it. Like they're not interested. I didn't have to
Yeah.
fill in the blanks. Would it be nice if someone said, "Hey, I think you're lovely. I'm not feeling it." Sure, of course. Like that would be. On paper, I would love for open communication, but I also understand some people just being like, "Oh, that's not fine, fine." But I think beyond that, where does ghosting become appropriate? To me, I don't really get it. I understand that, like, if people are saying, well, I don't feel safe, it's like, again, if you don't feel safe, one, why have you been dating this person? But now, if you don't feel safe, I still tell that person, because let me ask you, you think that you don't feel safe and this person's off their rocker and not a healthy person, you think ignoring them isn't going to fuel even more? Because sure, you can tell somebody, hey, I'm not interested in pursuing this. They could pop off. They can do it. You cannot control that. Then you don't have to answer. You're not ghosting. You told this person you're done. They just haven't accepted it. Versus if they text you and you don't answer, you don't think that they're not going to escalate because they want to get a response. So at the end of the day, like I know for me, I tried that where I was dating a guy and he was so anxious, it was like overwhelming. And I was like, maybe if I just don't answer. And then he just kept texting and I was like, oh my God, this isn't going to stop. And then I had to text him and say, I'm done. And then he still didn't stop. And at that point, that's when I was like, okay, now I'm not engaging anymore. And that
Yeah.
guy came to my house and like was outside my home being like, please just let me talk to you, because
Ooh,
I made the rookie move of when we went on a walk grabbing something from my house. I didn't put two and two. I was younger, and I
yeah.
walked in. I said, oh, let me go grab something. I said, this is my house, I'll be right back. Luckily he didn't know which apartment, but like
Ugh.
nonetheless, you can't control other people. You can only control yourself. And I would say, I would ask your reasons for why. What is your why for ghosting? Is it, I don't want to deal with it? Grow up. Or if it's like, I don't owe this person anything, like I literally, or like, I hear this all the time of like, I had 3 conversations with them on an app. Like I don't need to, I don't have to tell every single person that I'm meeting on a fucking dating app, sorry, I'm not interested. And so
Yeah.
I think it's also too, like, I think it's the receiver and the giver, what each person's going through.
Yeah, totally. Kind of a case by case. But yeah, I've had a situation before where a guy just didn't know like how to stop. And he kind of freaked me out. And at first I was like, I'm not interested. And he didn't take the hint. So I lied. I was like, oh, I'm engaged and moving.
That's
Like
what I
I'm
mean
out
by
of here.
like you do what you need to do when it comes to that. Where like someone like Ryan
Yeah.
even he was telling me he had ended it with a girl after like a date, and she freaked out on him, and he wrote to her and said, "You're welcome to text us as many times as you want. I'm blocking your number now," because he was
Yeah.
like, "You're not listening to me. You're not respecting what I said. Like then I'm done. I'm not engaging in this anymore." And it's like, "You're welcome to text me as many times as you want. I'm done."
Yeah.
Then at that point, it's like that's protest behavior on the other person. They know that it's and they're doing everything they can to try to reconnect with you. You just know that you made the right choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you got to just kind of, sometimes
But
you
at
even
the end
have
of the
to
day,
lie just to get rid of it.
that's what I'm saying. If you're literally like, I don't feel safe, this person like is threatening me and things like that, it's like, well, then
Yeah.
you need to do what you need to do for it to be safe. Like I have luckily
Yeah.
never encountered anything to that extent or seen it. So when I hear
Yeah.
stories like that, I'm like, okay, cool. Those are the outliers. Like those are the people that you're like, I would imagine you saw that behavior somewhere else and it wasn't just like but some people are, right? Some people are a switch that turn off. You do what you need to do then. Outside of that, when you're just dealing with normal dating, fucking courtship stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, so true. And okay, kind of with that, with texting, How often, okay, so if someone is in the beginning stages of seeing someone, how often should you be texting? At what point should you be saying, okay, they are taking like days to respond? Or at what point do you say, like, okay, my anxious attachment is making me feel like I need them to respond immediately? And, people are busy, so sometimes they, are doing other things and can't respond right away. So how do you know the difference between like, okay, they're taking too long to text versus my anxious attachment is making me believe I need to hear from them right this second?
I'll go back to patterns. If you are somebody, because when we talk about texting and dating, texting creates a false sense of intimacy. Okay, you want to fucking come and fight me on the internet? Go ahead. I don't really give a shit. But it does. Like, I know it because I've done it and I've engaged in that. I've spent hours and days with somebody and never met them, or you go and the date sucks, or they tell you after they don't want anything. Like, texting doesn't mean that it's not an indication. What I will say is there a pattern change? If you're telling me that you and this person text every single day for 3 months and would go out consistently every week, mind you notice how I added go out and do other things, not just fucking text every day. And then all of a sudden you haven't heard from them. Okay, but what else? You also haven't gotten phone calls. They haven't made any plans with you. They're not going, okay, then there's a shift in behavior. Then that shows us across the board. But when we get hyper vigilant on just one thing, what's the pattern? Do I do this every time I date? They haven't texted me. Just kidding. They did just now. I'm okay for 5 minutes. Or is this, like I said, are we noticing there is something up? For me, when I like in dating, I have learned that when I stop focusing so much on the texting, I can allow the rest to actually just take place. And I've even noticed that with even a guy that I was before Ryan, he would text me and like I was so busy I wasn't really paying attention to it. Like he would text me every other day. And I was fine with it because like we would have FaceTimes like 2 or 3 times a week, like when we couldn't see each other. It was probably like a 3 or 4 month thing. And I just allowed it to naturally progress. And then we came to a conclusion after that we realized like we just weren't into each other. It just like wasn't a match. It wasn't compatible. But I wasn't so focused on, are they texting me? How long has it been in between every text? Like when you are that myopic of it's been 7 hours since they text me. Okay. So then what I'm seeing is hypervigilance. You're noticing let me ask you, do you notice how long your friends haven't texted you for? Do you notice how long an email has taken somebody to respond? Do you notice so you're that hypervigilant of everything in the world. So then how do you live? But the reality
Exactly.
is you're scared of being left. And I understand that. But then we have to say, then what are you doing with your days if we're filling them up by staring at your fucking phone?
Yep.
And what
100%.
relationship are you building by just constantly texting somebody? Are they making plans? Are they calling you, FaceTiming? Do you feel like you're growing? Are they having conversations of depth? Do their words and actions align? You see how much more goes into it than just do they text me every day?
Yep. 100%. 100%. But it's like you said, it creates that false sense of connection. And I think people, especially maybe after COVID, are craving connection. And so it's so easy to like go to our phones and just feel like, like we're feeling something, like, you're connecting with someone and there's that potential there, but it's a false sense of connection for sure at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of go more into like personal stuff with you now. So where are you from originally?
Florida.
You're from Florida? Oh,
I
where in
am.
Florida?
Boca Raton. Boca, like South Florida. Boca, Palm Beach, kind of like we moved a lot. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trash. I'm from Florida. I mean, not
That's
as much anymore.
hilarious.
But
That's
yeah.
hilarious. My sister lives in Miami. She loves it.
Yeah. And COVID changed Florida a lot. That's why I was like, it's hard. You can't say as much that you're trash
Yeah.
when you're from Florida now. But back
Yeah.
before that, pre BC, before COVID,
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So you're from Florida and you're in California now, right?
yeah, in LA.
So how did you start your whole platform about giving people dating advice, relationship advice, and just your whole kind of niche you have online that I love?
I fell into it, honestly. I have
Yeah.
a clothing line called Software, and I was supposed to do Shark Tank in 2022. And so I was doing tons of podcasts and panels, and I was like really putting myself out there for the business, and I wanted to be seen as like the boss babe. And every time I would do something, I would always talk about dating and relationships. I would tie it back. And I remember my friend, she's an influencer, and she was like, dude, you've like really good advice. She's like, you don't necessarily take all of it, but she was like, you've got really good shit that you help people with. And so we would do videos like on her account where we would do like red flag or this or da da da, and people loved it. People were constantly like, "Yo, dude, why isn't she creating content? I'd love to see her make stuff." No, I'm not doing that. Not doing that. And so then I was supposed to be on Shark Tank and I was on set. Like, this is it. It's 7 months of prep. Like, I'm on, there's my decor, I hair and makeup. Like, you're next, Sabrina. You ready? And then 40 minutes later, I'm like, something's going on. And they come in, I'm so sorry. We can't fit you on today. And we don't know if we're going to have any space. 2 months later, they did the same thing. And I was it. You're sorry. And I lost my fucking marbles. Like, I was in a serious depression. I was contemplating taking my life. Like, I was in a place where I was like, I have nothing left to live for. And a guy that I'd gone on one date with, I think we both kind of knew it wasn't there, but he was a business owner. And like, we didn't even kiss. Like, it was just very, like, I think we just really respected and connected over the fact that we were both like small business owners.
Yeah.
And he just randomly called me because he wanted to know how Shark Tank went. Like, again, he's a business owner. And he called me, and I remember I just told him what happened. I was crying hysterically, and he talked me off the ledge. He just showed me
Wow.
like what kindness was. And I remember, like, we never spoke again after that. And I remember I made a video about that, and people were like yelling at me, being like, you used him. And I was like, what the fuck? What are you actually talking about?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in a bad place and some people are in your life for that. And it's okay. Right? It doesn't have to be anything more than that.
Yeah.
And I attribute that to him. I thank him for reminding me of that. And it just kind of, that I think was the first time I realized, like, I had a really great date with someone and he was a lovely person, but we don't have to pursue this. He was just there when I needed him. And I
Yeah.
think we texted a little bit, beyond, but he never asked me out again. We just never went out. I had tried
Yeah.
and he was like, oh, I'm busy. And then that was it. And I think, and then after that, my friend came to town, and this was like right around when my dog got sick and everything. And she was like, dude, I'm telling you, I really think you should start it. And I said, fine, I'll start TikTok. I don't want to do this, but like, fine. Then at least no one will know what I do on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that was it. I just started posting videos and
Wow.
sharing my experience, being like, I know I'm not the only person going through this stuff. And I remember my first video going viral and getting a ton of trolls and being like, I can't do this. But then being like, fuck these people. I'm going to keep showing up. And here we are.
And here you are. Wow, that's amazing. And isn't it funny? That's what people don't realize too. Not everyone you meet, not everyone you go out with is going to be your soulmate, the love of your life, but they are going to catapult you into the next phase of your life, you know?
Yeah.
Wow, that is so awesome. And it's funny to think, do you ever think about like if Shark Tank worked out, what you'd be doing? It'd be completely different.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful that didn't happen. And it's hard because in the moment I wasn't. I was not grateful at all. I was
Yeah.
very pissed. But now I'm like, oh no, that needed. Now listen, would it have been fun? Maybe it would have helped. Like maybe if I'd been on, even if I didn't get a deal, it would have been a fun experience. But that's not how it happened. And so I
Yeah.
could sit in hypothetical and like, what would it have been like if I was the business owner of software? And I am, right? I still own my company and I'm still doing what I need to do. But I had to also be okay with like, but you know what? Maybe it's okay that my life takes a different direction. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that.
Wow, isn't that crazy? That is so crazy to think about though. And like, we do the what ifs, but I think things always work out, even if it's not as planned, even better usually if we allow it to. And it's like you said earlier, like kind of being like, okay, I am going to give up control here and kind of let life do its thing, which
When
is
you
so cool.
surrender. When you surrender,
Yes.
you don't try to keep things in your life. You allow them into your life, and it's a lot more enjoyable to be.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh my gosh. So, okay. And you and Ryan are together, right? So you guys
Mhm.
met how many years ago now?
Almost 3, which is crazy.
Oh my gosh. And I love the story.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What a
So
great plot.
November will make it 3 years.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
exciting.
I appreciate
So
it.
you've been in this relationship almost 3 years. What is the best advice you could give to someone who's trying to kind of just navigate modern dating right now? Trying whether they're man, woman, whatever it is, what is the best advice you could give them?
Communicate, and if the day you stop communicating is the day your relationship is over. Is to communicate, and not just communicate, make sure your partner comprehends what you're saying, because that is what saves me and Ryan every time. Is like we have code words to avoid resentment. Can I share? And then we know whoever is hearing that, phones down, eyes to each other. We have little code words of like he'll say, "Babe, regulate," and that means he knows I'm getting too high. I say, "Hey, you're offline." That knows that he's shutting off, or he'll say, "I'm offline right now." We have ways because then we really keep each other in the loop, and we talk all the fucking time. We don't let shit happen. So like if somebody, like for instance, we had a plan for something and then he ended up like changing the plan with his friend without communicating with me. I didn't just be like, oh, that's okay. Like, no worries. Why don't you guys just like go out and have a good time? No, I was very clear. Like, part of this is that I was part of these plans. To be honest, it was my plan to begin with. You then took it, you ran with it with your friend when this was never what we agreed on. And you need to keep me in the loop. And so now and then it's like, he took the car one morning and I needed my car to go do something. He didn't communicate that he wasn't going to be home in time. And so we're just very open of like, hey,
Yeah.
If you're going to be doing something, what kind of progress are we going to be making? Are you going to let me know before you leave? Are we It's just that we don't overly communicate to the point where it's annoying, but we make sure that the other person feels seen, heard, understood, and that we feel seen, heard, and understood. And that's how we're able to balance. Now, does this mean we're going to be together forever? I don't know. I have no fucking idea. And that's why I don't say he's the one and I found my soulmate. I don't use platitudes like that because I don't know that I personally believe in it. But I will say he is the relationship I have for now, right? That's all I'm in. I'm in this moment. Don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But what we're doing is really fucking working and I really want to continue it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I think you're right. Like, kind of just letting go of those buzzwords like soulmate and forever. Like, no, just let life happen. And like you said, surrender. And yeah, the code words, though, I love that. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Very helpful, especially in heated moments when you just have the code word. Because your brain knows to look for it. And so when it hears it, it snaps your prefrontal cortex on and you're like, oh, you just said the code word. Got it.
I love that. I love that. That's a really good idea. So, okay, what other projects do you have coming up that you can share with us? Anything?
My book comes out next year, which is
Ah, that's so
insane.
exciting.
Yeah, it's my first book, so that's the first time.
Congrats.
Hopefully, thank you. Really trying to go out for like create a TV show, some kind of conceptual. That's like a 2 or 3 years type of, down the pipeline, but we're working on that. And I'm just really like I got rid of some co-hosted courses I had with people so that I could focus on my own stuff and really just like help the community focus. Like the podcast is now predominantly solos because like I love the Sabrina Zohar show, but like people are coming for me, so let me give the people what they want. And I'm really just focused on how can I help more people and be more accessible to people without having to be individual with people. So always my goal is to be able to help as many people as I can.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And for anyone who's curious, are you taking new clients?
Yeah, you can come on in, sabrinazohar.com. You can work one-on-one. You can ask a question. You can join a course. You can do whatever your heart content or just listen to the podcast. Like everything is there, whatever people need. We have so many free resources at nauseum.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. Okay. And where can people follow you?
We have the Sabrina Zohar Show on TikTok. Nope, I lied to you. We have the Sabrina Zohar Show on Instagram, Sabrina.Zohar on TikTok and Instagram, and Sabrina_Zohar on YouTube. But if you type Sabrina Zohar into one of these platforms, my shit will come up.
I know. Are you like one of a kind with that name, right? Is there any other Sabrina Zohars?
Yeah, there is Sabrina Zohar on
Is there?
Instagram with no dots or hashtags or anything in between or underscores, and she won't give me the goddamn fucking Instagram handle. So yeah, whoever my alter ego is out there.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. But you're one of a kind. You're one of a kind. We love it. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much for coming on, hanging out, chatting with me about all this. This was so much fun. We're going to have to do it again. We're going to have to do it again.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do it in person eventually.
I was gonna say, you know what? When the book comes out, we'll do it in person.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Well, thank you again. Thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, y'all.